Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Salisu here from Thriving Academy. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about carbohydrates, and basically we're going to cover three subtopics. We're going to see the definition of those compounds, their uses, and classification. So please, if you are new here, make sure you subscribe and in fact hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any of my videos. And if you think others will benefit from this video, please share it with them. So without wasting any time, let's jump into it. So now let's look at the definition. So generally, carbohydrates are defined as hydrates of carbon. So they have a general formula of CnH2O into N, where this N stands for number of carbon. But this definition of carbohydrates as hydrate of carbon satisfying this formula is misleading. And there are two main reasons for this. The first one is that it is true for non-carbohydrates. So what does this definition actually mean? What do I mean by this statement? This statement means that this definition, there are some compounds that are basically not carbohydrate, but this satisfies this formula. So one of those compounds is acetic acid. Acetic acid is not a carbohydrate, but rather a carboxylic acid that is found in vinegar, but it's do well satisfies this formula of hydrate of carbon. So another compound that also satisfies this formula and is not a carbohydrate is formaldehyde. Formaldehyde, and this is an aldehyde compound, which is the simplest of the aldehydes. It is not a carbohydrate, but it satisfies this formula for CnH2n as true. The second reason is that it is false for true carbohydrate. So what do I mean by this statement? For true carbohydrates. So what do I mean by this statement? This statement, there are some compounds that are really carbohydrates, but they are not satisfying this formula. Rather, they are not hydrates of carbon. One of those compound is rhamnose. Rhamnose is a naturally occurring deoxycarbohydrate, and it is not satisfying this formula, and it is a true carbohydrate. The second compound is deoxyribose. Deoxyribose, and this is also another carbohydrate that is found in DNA, that is in our genetic information. It does not satisfy that formula, and it is a carbohydrate. So for these two reasons, the definition of carbohydrates as hydrate of carbon is misleading. So the conventional definition of carbohydrate is they are fully hydroxyaldehydes or polyhydroxyketones or compounds that produce those on hydrolysis. So let's see what this definition actually means. So let's take a look at these two compounds, right? This first compound is D-glucose, right? D-glucose. So now let's see this definition. This definition is saying carbohydrates are poly, right? So this poly means many, right? Polyhydroxyaldehyde, polyhydroxy, which is hydroxy mean hydroxyl group, right? So it means many hydroxyaldehyde. So let's see from here. We have how many hydroxy here? One here, another one here, another one here, which are many, right? Hydroxyaldehyde, and this is the aldehyde functional group. So this is a carbohydrate according to this definition. This is an aldehyde functional group, an aldehyde. So the second part is all polyhydroxyketones, right? And we know poly is many, hydroxy is our OH group, and ketone. So let's look at this compound. This compound is called D-fructose. Okay, so let's say this one also a hydroxy here, another hydroxy here, another hydroxy here. So they are many also, right? And this is and polyhydroxy ketone, right? So let's see, and here is the ketone. So this is basically what this definition means: a compound containing many hydroxyl group that is either an aldehyde or a ketone. So that's that for the conventional definition of carbohydrates. So let's go into the uses. Actually, in the literature, there are quite number of uses of carbohydrates. But basically, I'm going to consider some of them. The first use of carbohydrate is they are the energy source. Carbohydrates provide energy. They are the most abundant dietary source of energy. And in this regard, carbohydrates provide 4 kilocalorie, 4 kilocal per each gram of carbohydrates. And glucose, this sugar that we use in that example, is the main source of energy in carbohydrates. So now let's see another importance of this compound. The second significance, or to say use, of carbohydrate is they participate in membrane structure. So they are found in the structure of our membranes, and we know that what membranes do is that they are selective barrier that prevent the cell from other cells and also from the surrounding environment. So some of these carbohydrates that are basically found in the membrane structure are: one, glycoproteins. So what do we mean by these glycoproteins? Glycoproteins, those are carbohydrates that are found in conjugation with proteins in the cell membrane. And one of them is transferrin. And this is a carbohydrate, a glycoprotein that is found in the membrane. It is a blood plasma glycoprotein that helps in iron metabolism. So this compound is a carbohydrate and it is important in iron metabolism. The second class of carbohydrates that are found in the structure of cell membrane are the ones we call glycolipids. Okay, so you see the distinction here: glycoproteins and here glycolipids, meaning here in these carbohydrates they are conjugated with a lipid, right? So these types of carbohydrate are found in the outer leaflet of the cell membrane, right? Outer leaflet of the cell membrane. So for example, if this is the cell membrane, this is the membrane, for example. So this one is the inner leaflet, that is the inner layer, and this one is the outer layer, or also called the outer leaflet. So glycoproteins, they are found in this layer. And what are the functions of this group of carbohydrates? They serve as receptors. They serve as receptors. For example, some of them are antibodies. Some of them are antibodies. And we know antibodies help fight diseases, for example, that are found. So these are the two groups of carbohydrates that are found in the cell membrane. Importance of these compounds are they are the storage form of energy. So they store energy in our body and also in plants as well. So for example, starch, which is a carbohydrate that is found as a stored form of energy in plants, and it is this storage form of energy that we take from plants as food. And when we take excess of this, then in our body it is converted to glycogen. The same structure but in different organisms. Glycogen. So glycogen is a storage form of carbohydrates in animals, and starch is a storage form of carbohydrate in plants. So these are some of the uses of carbohydrates. Many are in the literature. So now let's look at the classification of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are classified into three main categories, three major categories. Three major categories. The first one are called the monosaccharides. The first one are called monosaccharide. And what are these compounds, right? Let's see. So monosaccharides, they are the simplest form of carbohydrate, So their structure is quite the simplest among the carbohydrates, and they cannot be further hydrolyzed. They are the simplest form of carbohydrate. And another thing is that they are the basic units of carbohydrates. So all carbohydrates basically are constructed or are built from monosaccharides. Example of monosaccharides are glucose, galactose, mannose. Many of them are available in the literature. So this is what we are going to see for these ones. We will have a detailed discussion of monosaccharides in the next video. So the second main category of carbohydrates are oligosaccharides, and these are class of carbohydrates that are made up of 2 to 10 monosaccharides. So basically, when there is more than one monosaccharides joined together and up to 10, they are in this category. And monosaccharides are joined together by a bond called glycosidic bond. Later in our discussion, we're going to see what this bond is. So because of this group have a kind of number of is based on number of the monosaccharides, so it can have subgroups of di, tri when there is two monosaccharides joined together, tri when there is three, tetra when there are four, penta 6, and up to the last one of this group, which is the decasaccharides, right, when there are 10. So when there is more than 10, that is not in this group. So the third class of monosaccharide of carbohydrates are the polysaccharides. So what are the unique features of this compound? Number one is they are the largest carbohydrates. They are the largest, and they have start from 11 monosaccharides to infinity. So they can have as many number of monosaccharides as possible. So this group of carbohydrates, they are classified into two. So we have two types of polysaccharides. The first one are called the homopolysaccharides, and the second group, the second one are called heteropolysaccharides. Polysaccharides are further subdivided into two: homopolysaccharides and heteropolysaccharides. So let's see what are these homopolysaccharides. So homopolysaccharides, they are polysaccharides that have single type of monosaccharide. They are made up of single monosaccharide. For example of this group is starch. Starch is a polymer made up of only glucose. Another one is also glycogen. Glycogen also is a homopolysaccharide. So homopolysaccharides, they produce single type of monosaccharide. What I mean by they produce single type of monosaccharide is that when we break these compounds into their constituent monosaccharide, you have only one type of monosaccharide. So for example, if you break down starch, you have only glucose, right? So the second group are the heteropolysaccharides. These are polysaccharides that are made up of two or more monosaccharides molecules. So basically, when heteropolysaccharides are broken down, you can have more than one type of monosaccharide. Example of heteropolysaccharide is hyaluronic acid, and this is a heteropolysaccharide that is found in our joint. It performs function as a lubricant, so it's found in our joint. So this is for the classification of monosaccharides, but each of this class we are going to discuss them more in detail in separate videos. But this is what I have for you for now. Please make sure you subscribe and please hit that notification bell, and if you found this video interesting, please like it so that YouTube can recommend it to other viewers as well. See you next time with a brand new video.